Hello, everybody. This is DFS Chan coming to you live here to talk about the March Madness Bracket Challenge here in 2022. It's that time of the year, very exciting. All your family, friends, and colleagues are filling out brackets here today, tomorrow, and maybe some people will fill out at 11:59, a.m. Eastern time on Thursday, but yeah, so here with me today, I have Tony at T Basil. He's a bracketologist and he is a college basketball fanatic. So I will let him introduce himself, but we're excited to have him to dive deeper into the bracket. Hi, Tony.
Perfect. Hey, DFS Chan, Shani, great to be here. Thanks for bringing me on. Yeah, two of us go way back to Ann Arbor, our alma mater. So excited to see if Michigan can make a deep run. But yeah, I've been, just head over heels deep into college basketball for a number of years. This is my fifth year in bracketology, making some predictions. I also write a column on the side that focuses on Michigan and the Big Ten, kind of the bracket outlook, my projections, some analysis on college hoops, which I publish over at umhoops.com. But just like the rest of us, I've got a bracket up. I've been pouring over every pick. So yeah, excited to kind of go through it tonight. And we'll see. Hopefully we can bring you some luck in your office.
Yeah, and as Tony mentioned, Tony and I go way back to Michigan. We both attended Michigan, and we had those glory days of watching Michigan Michigan basketball play really well under John Beeline and now Juwan Howard. But I don't know about you, Tony, but I have pretty bad outlook as to how Michigan's gonna fare in this tournament. But we'll dive into that in their respective region. So how we're gonna do this today, it's gonna be about a 30-minute video, but we're gonna dive into each region and kind of go into each matchup briefly and then kind of share our favorite picks, our favorite predictions, and then maybe some sleeper picks that you guys are interested in, because I mean every year there are always upsets and there's always a Cinderella story. So hopefully we can provide you with some insights in that regard. So yeah, given that, Tony, before we go into the first region, do you have any overall thoughts on this year's bracket? I know you're a bracketologist, so can you just tell me a little bit about how many you've gotten right and how many you've gotten wrong in seating wise, and just tell us a little bit about that process?
Absolutely, yeah. So so it's been 5 years since I've been doing the bracket. Although only 4 of those have counted. Unfortunately, 2020, I was writing articles and pushing all the way up to the very end, and then of course it was canceled, and that was a bit of a bummer. But glad finally this year we got a real tournament across the country. It's not all in Indianapolis like it was last year. So I'm excited. I live out in San Francisco. They've got a regional final right here in the city. Nice. I'll probably try to get some tickets to that. We'll see who makes it there. But yeah, I think so. So last year I kind of changed my process in bracketology, kind of how I was projecting things. I made some tweaks to my model. I actually got all 68 teams correct in the bracket. Some of them were a seed or 2 off, but overall did really well last year. This year I got 67 out of 68.
Nice.
I did not have Rutgers in. A lot of people didn't. I had Texas A&M. They made that deep run into the SEC title game, and I had Rutgers just on the outside looking in. But overall, yeah, can't complain. 67 out of 68. For the most part, I think the bracket kind of played out the way I expected it to. There were a few seeds here and there that I kind of disagreed with. We'll get into it. Some teams are a little overseeded, a little underseeded. But for the most part, you can't complain. I mean, they're all in there. At the end of the day, you got to win 6 games, maybe 7 to win the title. So you take what you get, and you hope you get lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really. I mean, you just need one team to get hot in the tournament and kind of go through that the hot streak to be able to win it all. But yeah, so here I'll have the bracket pulled up. Let's see, share my screen. Yeah, so let's see the overall number 1 seed region, West region, with Gonzaga as the number 1 seed. So far, I've seen at least on the ESPN side of it, I think I have Gonzaga picked as like a 30%, 25 to 30% chance of winning it all amongst all the bracket fillers. So I think that's pretty fair, given that I think the Vegas odds of Gonzaga winning was also it's 3-1. So I thought that was interesting. Obviously they're on a revenge tour, so to
Oh, yeah.
speak, from last year losing to Baylor. But yeah, so what do you think about their outlook in this region? And then then we can kind of go through each matchup after that as well.
Cool. Yeah. No, I think, I mean, yeah, Gonzaga, they've been number one all year. The last 2 years going back, and they've been just loaded. Chet Holmgren, Timmy, they've got Nemhard. They have talent across the board. They're deep. They're battle tested, which is always kind of the criticism of Gonzaga. But I think the West Coast Conference is actually pretty good. They got 3 teams in this year. They got a 5 seed and a 10 seed as well. So they've played some good teams in conference as well as early in the season. Of course, they always play a gauntlet. So yeah, I think looking at the West, to me it's probably the weakest aside from Gonzaga. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to give the whole Western region away, but I'd be surprised if Gonzaga didn't make it out of this to New Orleans. But we'll see kind of how it plays out. But yeah, I think they've been number one. The margin between them and number 2 I think is pretty wide. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Gonzaga is UVA where they would lose to a 16 seed, right? So I'm pretty confident that they're gonna cruise along in this first game. But then Duke is the number 2 seed in this region. In my opinion, I don't know, Tony, maybe you disagree with me, but Duke has a higher ceiling than Gonzaga, I think, in my opinion, because they have so much talented players.
That's true. They beat them. I mean, yeah, they played and they beat them in a neutral court, so they got that.
Exactly. And yeah, they won by 3 points, I think. But Duke, they just been so inconsistent. I mean, sometimes I just feel like they don't know how to give Banchero, where to give him the ball, where to give him the ball on the offensive side, and then on the defensive side, they just don't really play any defense. So I just feel like they've been really inconsistent. But obviously, I think they're gonna pass by CSU Fullerton, in my opinion. What are your outlooks on Duke?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, Cal State Fullerton, they got out of I think the Big West, I believe. I mean, they were my 4th best team in that conference. Kind of the bracket broke for them, beating Long Beach State. Didn't have to play, I think, Santa Barbara, UC Irvine. So yeah, they made it out. I don't think they're going to give Duke much of a problem. I think Duke's just got the horses to plow through them. But yeah, I think overall, I mean, Duke, the trend is concerning leading into the tournament. They haven't played a whole lot of defense the last 4 games. North Carolina, obviously, Coach K's last game, that was a total letdown. And then Syracuse, Miami, Virginia Tech in the ACC tournament in Brooklyn, they couldn't stop anybody. And I think, Banchero can do only so much, but they just haven't been able to outscore people when they're giving up, 1.2, 1.25 points per possession, which is really bad. So we'll see. I mean, I think they get out of the first round, but I don't know how deep they're going to make it. But if it all clicks, they could do it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and then let's see. The number 3 seed in this region is Texas Tech. And I have some notes here that I thought they could be a dark horse in this region. I think that may go overlooked. I think they're gonna get past Montana State. That's my prediction. But do you have any 14/3 upsets possibilities here in this region? What do you think?
No, not here. I like Texas Tech quite a bit. They have the number 1 ranked defense in the country, according to a lot of the advanced metrics. I mean, they get after it. They switch everything. They don't let teams get down the middle against them. I mean, they don't do it. So it's pretty incredible. Played a really tough schedule in the Big 12. So yeah, I think they're looking pretty good.
And then I think number 4 seed is Arkansas against Vermont. What do you think about that matchup?
So this is an interesting one. This is if folks want to pick a 13 over a 4, and it happens, once a year, maybe once every 2 years. This is one that I think I'm going to pick in my bracket with Vermont. It's an interesting spot. The game is in Buffalo, so geographically, Vermont's actually closer to this site than Arkansas is. And I just think it's a bad matchup for Arkansas. I mean, again, it could be wrong. It's the percentages are pretty close, but Vermont's one of the most experienced teams in the country. I think they're the 3rd or 4th oldest roster out of any team. Arkansas, the way they play against you, they trap, they pressure, they force you into mistakes. But Vermont doesn't make mistakes, so I think Vermont's playing really well. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Arkansas here.
Oh, okay. I like that spicy take right there. I know Arkansas beat Kentucky. That was an interesting game. So we'll see what happens there. But Kentucky was on a little bit of a skid then when Arkansas beat them. So yeah, I mean, I think you may be right. Vermont likes to take care of the ball, so I like that pick a lot. And then, all right, UConn. So I think UConn is a very interesting team coming into the tournament. Um, I just feel like, I mean, I think they're underseeded in my opinion. I know their records, I think was it 23-9? Yep, 23-9. I know they're not the best shooting team, but I just feel like they're a very good team overall. But New Mexico State is not a joke, no joke either. So what do you think about that 12-5 matchup?
Yeah, this is an interesting 12-5 spot. I think it's going to be close. At the end of the day, I think UConn probably pulls this one out. But it's interesting. I mean, I like UConn. I think they play with a toughness. They play with a grit. I think they're the number one ranked team as far as getting offensive rebounds. And that that travels. I mean, they get after it. I think New Mexico State's pretty good. They're one of the better, obviously mid-major teams to make it. They got a 12 seed, pretty highly seeded. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it'll be a slow game. I might take the under here if I'm betting the total. But yeah, I think UConn prevails.
Okay. Let's stay in that part of that region. Boise State against Memphis, 8-9 matchup. Who do you have winning? I have Boise State, but I think it can go either way.
Yeah, I like Boise State. I mean, Memphis is an interesting team. I mean, they were highly ranked preseason, had all these great recruits. Penny Hardaway brought a lot of talent down there. Got off a pretty rocky start, but then they kind of rallied and they recovered. So it's kind of first half, second half team. Overall, though, I like Boise State in this matchup. Memphis is kind of like UConn. They get a lot of offensive rebounds. That's kind of the engine that makes their offense go. Boise State really good defensively. They don't give up any offensive rebounds. So I think the matchup wise favors the Broncos in this one.
Sounds good. And then I'll save the best one last, but Alabama against Rutgers or Notre Dame. So obviously Rutgers and Notre Dame will be playing in the play-in game in the next couple of days. But Alabama against, let's say, that's a tough matchup. First of all, I mean, who do you think is going to win between Rutgers and Notre Dame for those straight up bettors out there? I like Rutgers a lot, but I just haven't watched enough Notre Dame for me to opine on that.
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame. I don't know. They were right on the edge for me as far as making. I think they might have been my very last team in. And yeah, I'm not surprised to see them in the first four. I had Rutgers out, but I think this matchup. I mean, Notre Dame. They had that one really great win early in the season against Kentucky. That's kind of propped them up the whole season. Overall in the ACC, they got a lot of wins, but the ACC was down this year. I mean, Rutgers. Another confusing team. A lot of bad losses, a lot of really, really good wins. At the end of the day, I think Rutgers probably finds a way to do it. They're a little older, more experienced. They've been there before. It's kind of the third year with this core being together, playing at a pretty high level. So I take the Scarlet Knights in my home.
I like Rutgers too. Is it Ron Harper Jr. that plays for them?
Yeah.
I love it. I think that one game
yeah.
when he hit that buzzer beater, man, that was awesome. But anyway, so yeah, Alabama, let's say Rutgers. I mean, who do you got? I think Alabama probably. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting spot, and I personally I think that the teams that are playing in Dayton in the Tuesday Wednesday playing around, I think they kind of got the short end of the deal here. So they have to play a late night game in Ohio, and then fly across the country, short turnaround on the West Coast. I think this one's in San Diego. So it's going to be tough. Different time zone.
Okay.
I think Alabama on a lot more rest, be much fresher. They've got they have a lot of good wins, some weird losses, but I think I like Alabama.
That's a good point on traveling. All right, the last one, most interesting one, I think, in my opinion, Michigan State versus Davidson. Davidson unfortunately suffered the loss in their A10 championship game, but they had a really good season. They earned an at-large bid. But they're going up against a Big Ten, Michigan State. They obviously played in the best conference, because they had 9 teams in for the tournament. But I think this is an interesting 7-10 matchup. I think Davidson has some pretty good solid players, including this Korean kid, who I really like. He has length, and I mean, it doesn't come by often, right? So, so yeah, I mean, so I think that's an interesting match, nonetheless. I actually have Davidson winning this one, but what do you think?
Yeah, this one's really close. I like the way Davidson plays. Bob McKillop, really good coach, been there forever. They got a great system, good shooters. I don't know. Michigan State, that's a tough one. I think, you know, they have athletes, they have Bingham, they have length, they have some good guard play.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think at the end of the day, probably Michigan State might sneak by, but
Mhm.
it's tough, and it's down in South Carolina, much closer for Davidson. I could see this one as pretty much a coin flip.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I mean, it's kind of like a home game for Davidson, but who knows? Like you said, Michigan State, I think has definitely much more talent on that team and more size. But yeah, all right. And then before we move on to the next round in this region, we'll speed it up a little bit. But I think you mentioned something that was interesting, kind of resonant throughout some teams that we picked advancing. That you think better defensive teams travel better.
Yeah.
I think you talked about that about Texas Tech and then also UConn. So I mean, do you think that? I mean, people ask me this question a lot. Do you think
Mhm.
a better defensive team, is more likely to win a championship, or a better offensive team is more likely to win a championship? Or does that really matter, or is it just more a balance thing that you're looking for in a team,
Mhm.
more consistency, or is it more high ceiling? What do you see in a team, and in projecting the winner, of the tournament?
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, I think some years it goes one way, some years it goes the other. I mean, you know, good defense beats good offense unless it doesn't. I think at the end of the day, you know, you want, I always look for, okay, what are the teams at the top of the list as far as defensive metrics go? And this year, you know, Texas Tech, LSU, Tennessee, they're all right up there at the top. I think they have staying power. They have really good defenses. Their offenses obviously aren't quite that good. Otherwise, they'd be, you know, number one, but they're good enough to get enough points when they need to.
Mhm.
I think, you know, some of the really good defensive teams that don't have any offense, Iowa State, San Diego State, not a big fan. But yeah, I don't know. I think this year it's pretty wide open. The really good teams do it all. Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, Baylor, they all play pretty good defense and offense. So hard to say. It's kind of a matchup thing, but overall,
Exactly.
yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
agree.
tough.
Yeah, that is tough. And like you said at the end, I think it definitely comes down to each matchup. I mean, obviously who you think will advance and who you think will play against each other. So kind of goes off of that. But yeah, so let's continue real quick. So yeah, we'll skip the Sweet 16 and then we'll go straight to Elite Eight. In your bracket, in your projections, who do you think will go to Elite Eight, and who ends up going to Final Four out of this region?
So for me, I have Gonzaga and Texas Tech meeting in the Elite Eight with Gonzaga going through. I could see Duke getting through, meeting Gonzaga again. No problems with that. But yeah, overall, that's going to be a close one. But yeah, Gonzaga to me, yeah, they're the best team in the country. They'll get this far. They got a pretty good draw. They're going to be playing games, you know, close home in Portland, San Francisco, West Coast. So yeah, I think they get there.
Okay, that's fair. I think Gonzaga will be a popular pick. And then I'll share my pick as well, and it's not different than yours. It's Gonzaga, but I do think there are some teams that have the potential, like you said. I like Texas Tech because of the defensive efficiency that you mentioned. Obviously, defense is very important, and that's something Gonzaga struggled against Baylor in last year's championship. And then I like Duke, like you said, if they hit the ceiling, but they're just so inconsistent for me to kind of pick. And I think that kind of correlates with, for me at least, it depends on the size bracket pool that you're playing in. So if
That's
you
true.
are playing in a smaller bracket pool, like let's say at your work or in your family, let's say there's like 10 entries or 20 entries, yeah, then you don't want to take as high of a risky
Mhm.
pick. I mean, you can probably still play Gonzaga, and then if you get as long as you get other picks right in other regions, even if Gonzaga busts, then you still have a chance to win that bracket pool, right? But if you are playing in a much larger bracket pool, I mean, then you probably need to take a shot at, let's say, Texas Tech or Duke, because that Gonzaga is gonna be picked, at least 30% of the times, in that bracket pool. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like a strategy based on the bracket pool size. I think that you kind of have to take your risk on. But I think that it's something to think about when you are trying to win these pools. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so let's talk about the next region here, South region, since we're at the top half of the bracket.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Arizona is a very straightforward pick in my opinion, I think. But I think this is the toughest, in my opinion, region for me to pick each matchup on. And I think Villanova, Tennessee are very strong teams. I think Tennessee, in my opinion, is underseeded. I think they could have been a number 2 seed. And then obviously Illinois had a really good season in the big, in the strongest conference in Big Ten. And then you have Michigan as like a number 11 seed, and seems like the most popular upset pick is Michigan, unfortunately, on this bracket this year. So, but yeah. So, what are your thoughts overall in this South region?
Overall, yeah, I mean, I think I like Arizona. I love the way they play. They play fast. They pass the ball really well. They're fun to watch. Yeah, same thing. I thought Tennessee was underseeded. I think Tennessee deserved a 2. Them getting a 3, I think, was a little tough for them. Michigan, yeah, the 11 seed over the 6 seed. I mean, if everyone's picking that, that's the kiss of death, right? You know, I like Michigan, of course. But yeah, we'll see. That's an interesting game. And then, yeah, Illinois, they've been kind of under the radar a little bit. You know, they kind of had a disappointing end to last season. Kind of the same team, stayed intact, 4 seed, very solid, but they're a really good team too. So
Yeah, and Illinois is an interesting one because I think you look at the data, you look at the analytics, and then their efficiency ratings are not great. But then you also have to think about that Corbello, one of their best player, has been out, was out due to an injury for a while, and he's coming back. And I feel like with him coming back, and with Kofi Cockburn, I just like them a lot here. They have a potential to beat Arizona, I think maybe, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But let's look at the closer matchups here in the first round. Let's go to our rivalry, Ohio
sure.
State against Loyola Chicago. I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of pick percentage goes with
Mhm.
Loyola Chicago, based on the fact that they've been the most recent Cinderella story in the past 2-3 years, and
Yeah.
they actually did play against Michigan, that one year. But yeah. Anyway, Ohio State has been a little inconsistent for my taste. I know Liddell is a great player there, but they
Mhm.
struggled a bit in the Big Ten tournament. So, what is your prediction there?
Yeah, Ohio State's one of the most interesting teams in this whole tournament for me. And I think the key for me is if they have a center, kind of power forward, big guy, Kyle Young. When he plays, Ohio State is a 4 seed, in my opinion.
Okay.
They're that good. They can make a Final Four. They could be incredible. He's been out the last couple of weeks with concussion problems going back. You know, he's had a tough time with that over his career. When he doesn't play, Ohio State is barely a tournament team. I mean, he's not their best player. EJ Liddell is their best player. Malachi Branham, freshman, could be a draft pick, could be a first round pick. He's really good too. But Kyle Young is the glue that holds this team together. If he plays, I like OSU to beat Loyola, to beat Villanova, maybe even to beat Tennessee. If he doesn't, I like
Wow.
Loyola here. So I'm not really sure. You know, I haven't heard the latest on that, but I would keep an eye out for Kyle Young specifically. See what
Wow.
happens.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Okay. All right. What about Houston versus UAB? I don't really know much about UAB, but I know Houston. I'm
Yeah.
actually quite impressed with Houston's resume,
Mhm.
and their ratings. So I do think Houston has a pretty good chance not only to win this game, but against Illinois in the next round. I think that's gonna be a very, very fun matchup to watch. So what do you think about that 12-5 matchup?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I like UAB. They're a solid team. But yeah, Houston, the computers love them. The computers have them in the top 2 or 3 in the country. They have, their best shooter got hurt. He's not playing, Marcus Sasser, but they just keep winning and they keep blowing teams out. They made the Final Four obviously last year, had a great run. So I think I like Houston here. And yeah, I mean, in the 4 or 5 matchup with Illinois is tough for me. I've been going back and forth on that one, but I like Houston.
All right, let's look at the last first round matchup in that region: Seton Hall versus TCU. I don't really know much about either of these teams, so could you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah. I mean, they're both solid. Seton Hall came in Ann Arbor, beat Michigan early this season. Impressive win. They kind of had a rough patch in the middle, but they closed the season really strong. They played really well in the last game of the season against Creighton. I like Seton Hall in this one slightly. TCU, they've had some good wins. They beat Texas in the Big 12 tournament, but overall, yeah, I think Seton Hall is just playing a little better basketball right now.
Gotcha. But you have them losing against Arizona, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay. So
They're not playing that good. Yeah.
so I'll push Arizona through. And then let's see. So how far do you have Arizona going in this region? And then let's see. Let's listen. Let's hear your Final Four pick out of this region.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Arizona getting out of this one as well. I know it's kind of, it's chalk for me the first two rounds, Gonzaga getting through, Arizona getting through, but they're good. They played Illinois early this season in Champaign. They beat them. So I think on neutral court, they'll probably beat them again if they were to play again. Yeah, I mean, I think they're big, they're long, they play fast, they're hard to guard. So I like them getting through.
Gotcha. All right. So and then the bottom half of that region, we have Michigan, Tennessee, Ohio State, Villanova. I know Villanova and Tennessee are going to be the popular picks to advance against their respective opponents, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I like Villanova getting to the Elite Eight, losing to Arizona eventually. Although it's tough. I think Tennessee and Villanova played early this season on a neutral court. Villanova blew them out, beat them by 18 or 20, I think. Wasn't close. Tennessee's gotten a lot better since then, but Villanova, they beat them then. I don't see a super compelling reason to pick against them if that's who you're matching up with in the Sweet 16. So I'll probably take Villanova.
Okay. So you have Villanova going through, let's see, Delaware, Ohio State, and Tennessee, and then ends up losing to Arizona. So okay. Villanova must be a pretty good team this year to earn the number 2 seed. So that's interesting because I haven't really heard much about them this year. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean they're solid. They're old. They're
old.
One of the best free throw. In a good way. One of the best. I think maybe the best free throw shooting team maybe in the history of college basketball. So they fundamentally sound.
Gotcha. Okay. And they probably have a pretty easy path compared to, let's say, other number 2 seeds, I think, in my opinion, because I think Duke has to go through Michigan State and Texas Tech. And so anyway, all right. So we have so far Gonzaga and Arizona in the Final Four in Tony's bracket so far, I think, both number 1 seeds, pretty chalky, but it is what it is. So hopefully we'll get some non-number 1 seeds in other regions. Maybe we'll see. All right, let's look at let's look at the other 2 regions here. Let's look at the Midwest region here first. Let's mix it up a little bit. So Kansas is the Big 12. Is it the winner? Did they win the conference or did Baylor win?
They did.
Kansas won it, right?
Yeah, it was, I think, regular season. I think it might have been a split, but they won the tournament.
Okay, so Kansas, pretty hot coming into this tournament as a number 1 seed. And then they have Auburn as a number 2 seed. And then number 3 is, Wisconsin. Okay. And then number 4, Providence. Wow. So this is a very interesting region. I think it's pretty easy, maybe, for Kansas to.
So.
Okay. So let's kind of talk about that. So you have Kansas. And then let's look at Auburn probably advancing here. And then do you have Wisconsin advancing over Colgate?
Yeah, I've got Wisconsin getting in the second round.
All right. And then let's say number 4 seed is Providence over South Dakota State. That's going to be an interesting one, I think. South Dakota State is always a tough out. So
yeah. This one, I think I would say the computers, this one is basically a coin flip. And for a 4-13, that's kind of shocking. But Providence, I mean, they're way overrated as a 4 seed. Had a lot of good wins this year. They actually beat Wisconsin in Madison earlier this season, but they've had Providence the most incredible luck in close games. They just find a way to win somehow. But yeah, I would go with San Diego State in this one. San Diego State, one of the best 3-point shooting teams that we've seen, I think, since 2015. I mean, they shoot the lights out. So I would take them in the upset.
San Diego State over Creighton, and then you have South Dakota State over Providence as well?
Yes, South Dakota State.
South Dakota State. Okay, gotcha. And then they shared the same acronyms, so it was confusing for me at least. But yeah, I agree though. I agree with you though. I think Wisconsin as well as a number 3 seed, and then Providence as a number 4 seed. At least for me, when I looked at the bracket, were the most overseeded teams, I think, and maybe in the tournament. So I thought that was an interesting observations for this region. And so that's why I was also thinking Kansas, it's an easy path for them to advance out of this region. But yeah, let's look at Iowa over versus Richmond. Do you have Iowa as well? I mean, Keegan Murray has been lights out. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like Iowa a lot. They're playing as well as anybody in the country. They got Keegan Murray. He's maybe the player of the year. Can score at all three levels. He's really fantastic. But their supporting cast is good. The supporting cast is better than they were last year when they were a 2 seed. They got guys who aren't afraid to take big shots. They make big shots. So yeah, I like Iowa going pretty far in this bracket, actually.
okay. All right, let's look at LSU versus Iowa State. What do you think about that matchup?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, two of the best defensive teams in the country. I would take the under here for sure. LSU, their coach just got fired, which is going to be kind of interesting.
Oh,
But I
okay.
think, I think they're really talented. They were a tough seed last year as an 8 seed. This year they're a little bit better as a 6 seed. I think they beat Iowa State, and then I actually think that they have a good chance of beating Wisconsin too in the second round.
Mm-hmm. All right, last matchup we have left is USC versus Miami. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, this one, I haven't watched either team a ton. I think Miami, I would give them the slight edge. It's a slight upset of 10/7. USC, they haven't really played many people. I mean, pretty easy schedule. A lot of wins, but not many good wins. And I think they've kind of struggled down the stretch a little bit. So I think I would go Miami.
Yeah, it looks like Miami has one win over Duke and one win over UNC by 28 points. Wow, that's pretty impressive. So
They've got a really good offense.
yeah. So yeah, that's I think that's the first round matchups here. And this is where it gets all very spicy for me. So this is where I know you mentioned about something about San Diego State. But for me, I actually have San Diego State beating Kansas. That's
Ooh,
gonna
I
be
like it.
my upset pick of the bracket, in my opinion. I think I love San Diego State this year. That's gonna be my dark horse pick in the bracket. I know that Kansas looks like an easy path, to Final Four, but I really like San Diego State's. I like their defense. I like
Yeah.
I like the seniors on that team as well. So yeah. So what do you think about that? And then I think Kansas would be the logical pick in my opinion, but what do you think about this region overall, and then who comes out of this region?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I wouldn't mind taking San Diego State in that one either. Yeah, their defense is fantastic. For me, I like Iowa. I would have had Iowa beating Kansas in the next round anyway. So I feel like, if you're going to pick an upset, might as well just go around earlier. Pick San Diego State in that one. Just kind of spice things up. Maybe get an extra leg up on the rest of your pool if you call it. Nobody else does. But yeah, I think I like Iowa potentially over South Dakota State to get to the Sweet 16. The bottom half, I think I like Auburn over Miami, and I might go LSU actually over Wisconsin.
Okay. And then let's see, LSU versus Auburn. That's an interesting one. SEC matchups there. So what do you think about that one?
Yeah, that one, I still think Auburn, they've got probably the best shot blocker in the country in Walker Kessler. They've got Jabari Smith, who's an incredible scorer. I'd probably favor them, but it's close.
And then I'm guessing from what I hear, you have Iowa advancing.
Yeah, I think so. I think Iowa, I mean, they're red hot. They can score the ball. Their defense is better than people think. Yeah, I would put them through.
Man, Iowa going to the Final Four. How about that? Man, our friend Alan will be very disappointed in you, Tony. So anyway, shout out to Alan there.
Sorry, Al. Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't pick Iowa State to do anything in this bracket. I picked Iowa, but that's what I'm feeling.
Oh man. All right. So there's that. And then let's see. So we have 1 seed, 1 seed, and 5 seed so far. So let's look at the East region. This is the last region. Baylor, obviously the national champions from last year, as the number 1 seed. That number 1 seed spot was wide open for grabs, I think, in my opinion, until the last day of the selection Sunday. So is Baylor as good as advertised? I know they didn't win Big 12, but I think they had a very good season. So what do you think about their outlook?
Yeah, Baylor, I mean, they're very solid. Obviously, championship pedigree, really good coach. But they've had some injuries this year. Their best shooter hasn't played in a few weeks, so that's going to be a problem. Their backup center, kind of their big bruiser, hasn't played in a while, so they're a little banged up. Yeah, I thought that up until the last couple of days, this could have been Kentucky in the number 1 spot. So the fact that Baylor kind of squeaked in is interesting. I think they probably, I mean, they're going to beat Norfolk State, you know, and I think they might go one more round, but I don't see them actually getting that far here.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think Baylor's number 1 seed, and then, like you said, number 2 seed in this region is Kentucky. And I think Kentucky might be the strongest number 2 seed, I think, maybe other than Auburn in this tournament. So Kentucky obviously has a very high upside.
Mhm.
And like you said, I have Kentucky winning this matchup over St. Peter's pretty handedly. So I have that. And then number 3 seed in this region is Purdue. Purdue obviously had a really good season in Big Ten. And then UCLA is number 4, which I've seen a lot of, college basketball analysts pick UCLA, actually beating Baylor in this region. But,
Mhm.
what do you think about UCLA and then Purdue's outlook here?
Yeah, I mean, I like UCL. I mean, they're, you know, they went on a huge run last year. Obviously, they got hot. They got a really good coach. I think Mick Cronin is pretty underrated. You know, he'll make the adjustment game to game, put them in the position to win. So in a tournament setting, I think UCLA is really dangerous. And they've got shot makers. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, when the pressure's on, kind of, you know, the crowd's going crazy. Johnny Juzang, Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, they get it done in isolation situations, which is really impressive. So I think, yeah, UCLA getting, you know, a couple rounds deep at least in this tournament is probably a good call.
What do you think about Purdue?
Purdue's a really interesting call. You know, again, amazing offense. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a Big Ten guy. I watched Purdue play a ton of games this year. Sometimes they look incredible. Sometimes they just can't get out of first or second gear. They kind of get stuck. So I think Purdue's actually at risk to get upset. If they fall behind, they play slow, they play through the post. It's tough for them to make up ground. I think they beat Yale, but I would not be surprised yeah, I know, right? Going out on a limb, I think they beat Yale, but they could lose in the second round. I would not be shocked at all.
Yeah, I was about to say I was getting a little nervous there because I had Purdue picked here on the screen, and then I was thinking maybe Tony's gonna pick Yale over Purdue, but no, I actually have Purdue winning Yale, and Tony does too. So, and then the other interesting matchup here is UNC versus Marquette. Obviously, UNC beating Duke in the last match for Coach K, last home game for Coach K. UNC coming in pretty hot. I know they struggled a bit in the ACC tournament, but they are playing against Marquette. So what do you think about that 8-9 matchup?
Yeah, I mean, eight nines are always close. To me, I'd give UNC the edge. You know, Marquette, they don't rebound the ball on either side of the court. That's I think going to be a problem against UNC. They've got length. And I just think Marquette, their coach Shaka Smart, he's, you know, aside from that big run he made 10, 11 years ago with BCU, he hasn't done anything in the tournament. He's always disappointed. So yeah, I'd probably take the Tar Heels.
Gotcha. The Havoc defense. The St.
Yeah.
Mary's against, let's say, Wyoming or Indiana. So Indiana, I've watched a lot of Indiana this year in Big Ten. I love Indiana potential here. I think Indiana comes out of that first 4 matchup in my opinion. And I actually have Indiana beating St. Mary's, but I think that's going to be a pretty popular 12/5 pick if Indiana advances, just based on the brand value. But St. Mary's, I mean, I haven't really watched them. Like you said, I mean, they played against Gonzaga and they beat, I think, did they beat Gonzaga one time? Is that the one where they stormed the court, I believe? Yeah, and that was an amazing scene in college basketball. But so is St. Mary's as good as advertised? I mean, you think Indiana has any chance over St. Mary's?
It's a tough one. I mean, again, this is a case where Indiana's got to play on Tuesday or Wednesday and then fly across the country 2 days later, play in Portland. I mean, St. Mary's, they're good. They're fundamentally sound. They do a pretty good job. They beat Gonzaga. I don't know. I think, I mean, the way Indiana played in the Big Ten tournament, knocking off Michigan, knocking off Illinois, you know, almost it took a miracle for Iowa to beat them. I think, you know, they're playing well. So I would not be surprised in that one. I could see that one going either way. I think they beat Wyoming. So if you want to pick Indiana there, I would go for it. I have St. Mary's, but I think that's going to be really close.
Okay. All right. And then 2 more matchups here, Texas versus Virginia Tech, and then maybe Murray State over San Francisco. What do you think about those 2 matchups?
Yeah, I like the double-digit seeds in both of these. I like Virginia Tech. Again, they're playing red hot. They won the ACC tournament. They just destroyed Duke, totally took them out of the game. So I like them over Texas. And then San Francisco, Murray State, I think they're good. They have a bunch of wins. I don't know who they've really beaten. I think they have one, maybe win in the first quadrant. They haven't played in a week and a half, 2 weeks. So I think I would go with San Francisco. I'm a little biased, but I like the way they play.
Well, San Francisco has pretty good wins against Davidson, and then they beat BYU. But then Murray State, like you said, hasn't really played anybody. They beat Memphis. That's their best win. In Chattanooga. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think these are pretty weak teams, just given the 7-10 matchup. But I think they're whoever wins that, I mean, is gonna lose in the next round against Kentucky, right? So
Yes.
I think Kentucky is gonna advance to Elite Eight there. And then let's see who do you think if comes out of this region, and who do you think could be the dark horse? I know you already picked double-digit seeds here, Virginia Tech and San Francisco. I know a lot of college basketball analysts. I mean, I think the recency bias is kicking in, and Virginia
That's
Tech
true.
is the but in college basketball, and it's such a in a tournament like this where they play 6-7 games within the span of like 2 weeks, I think it's important to kind of learn who is hot and coming in hot. I mean, I think that's a very important aspect to look at. So Virginia Tech, I mean, do you think they have a chance against Purdue?
Oh yeah, I completely do. I think I mean Purdue, they don't really have much of a defense. Purdue's interesting. I mean, I could see them getting all the way to the Final Four, winning the whole thing if they get hot. I could also see them losing to Virginia Tech, which I actually in my bracket I have Virginia Tech beating Purdue, losing to Kentucky in the next round. But yeah, that's I think the way I'm going.
Gotcha. What about UCLA and St. Mary's in the West Coast matchup there?
Yeah, I got UCLA winning. Yeah, I think again I have a lot of respect for what UCLA can do. I have them also beating Baylor. I think Baylor's run comes to the end comes to an end in Sweet 16. And then at that point, I think Kentucky, Oscar Tshiebwe, one of the best rebounders at the college level I think I've ever seen. I think they get it done.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I for those of you who don't know, I actually live in Lexington, Kentucky, and so I've been to a lot of UK games, and Oscar Tshiebwe is as good as advertised. Like Tony said, I mean, he is the best rebounder in the league by far, and probably the best one out in the last 5 years or so, I think, in my opinion. So he's a very good prospect, and yeah, I mean, I think in a game like this where if your 3-pointers don't fall down, I mean, they can just feed the ball to Tshiebwe, and even if they miss, I mean, he's going to get some rebounds. He's going to get a lot of second chance points. So I do like UK's chances here to advance. So we have Gonzaga, Arizona, both number 1 seeds, and then Kentucky, number 2 seed, and then Iowa, number 5 seed in the Final Four. So does that look right to you, Tony? What do you think about that Final Four?
Yeah, no, that's what I've got. I mean, I like it a lot. I think, throwing a couple 1 seeds in there, but then, yeah, 2 and a 5, I think it's a pretty good balance. I think to me, these are the teams, it just sets up really well for all of them to get there.
All right, let's talk about the actual Final Four matchups. So Gonzaga versus Kentucky. I mean, I would love to buy tickets to watch that game. I think that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Obviously, Gonzaga has really good bigs, but Kentucky as well. But Kentucky also has good perimeter shooting. They're getting a lot of players back from injuries. Gonzaga is getting everybody back too. So, I mean, what do you think about that full throttle matchup?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch down in New Orleans. I like Kentucky in this one. I think Gonzaga gets to the Final Four, but as we've seen time and again with them, they hit a wall against teams that can match them player for player. And yeah, I think Oscar Tshiebwe against Chet Holmgren. I mean, that's going to be a high-powered matchup, but I think Kentucky wins.
Okay, that's going to be an interesting. That will make people here in Lexington very happy. But the next, the other matchup is between Arizona and Iowa. This is a very interesting matchup. I think, like you said, Iowa, pretty hot. They're a pretty good, all-around team with Keegan Murray now getting pretty hot. But Arizona seems very, very talented, all around throughout the roster.
Yeah. This one, I have Arizona winning this game. I just think, Iowa, they do a lot of things well. Their offense is really fun to watch, but Arizona just does everything a little better. They play fast, just like Iowa. I think this game, we could see a team score 100 points in this one. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I think Arizona, they have length to bother Iowa on the perimeter. on the inside. I just think they overwhelm them in the end.
All right. So it comes down to Kentucky versus Arizona. So, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. So I think I know who Tony's going to pick, but I just want to hear it from his own mouth. So who do you think, Tony? Who do you think is going to be the national champions?
Well, you heard it here first. Probably not first, because this is not that unconventional of a pick. But if you go back the last few tournaments, you take the number one team that everyone picks, they don't win it, right? Last year, everyone thought Gonzaga would win. They didn't do it. Year before was canceled, 2019. Everyone thought Duke would win with Zion Williamson. They didn't do it. It's the second best team, I think, that's in a good, that's where you want to be as far as your bracket. So I think Arizona wins this one. I'm going to say 85-78 is the final score. Pretty high scoring. I think Arizona will probably be fully healthy by then. It'll be a good game. But yeah, I just think Arizona, they're too well coached with Lloyd down there. They have a lot of talent, and I think they edge out the Wildcats.
Okay. All right. There it is, folks. Tony's picking Arizona Wildcats to win again over Kentucky Wildcats. So it's going to be a mascot battle there.
That's true. Didn't even think about that.
So that's going to be a very interesting matchup, in my opinion. So yeah, I hope you like the video, guys. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me at DFS Chan on Twitter or at T Basil for Tony. He's very active on Twitter. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to DM him. But yeah, so if you like the video, hit the like button below here and hit the subscribe button if you want to watch videos about other sports. We mainly deal in DFS, daily fantasy sports, and other sports like basketball, golf, soccer, esports, NFL. Now MLB's coming back, thank God. So hopefully that, translates into a lot of, money for you guys if you are betting or playing fantasy sports and also filling out this bracket. So, but anyway, thanks again, Tony, for your time. Do you have anything else to say before we end the video?
Yeah, just best of luck. Thank you for having me on as a guest. This is a lot of fun. And yeah, I can't wait for March Madness to start. I've been looking forward to it all year, and it's finally here.
I just hope Michigan wins that first matchup, man. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. Anyway, all right. Thanks, Tony. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.